John David Ebert here. Just wanted to do a quick promo video for my upcoming course on the life and works of Carl Jung, which I'll be doing with Justin Murphy through his Other Life series. And the link for that, if you want to sign up, is otherlife.co/Jung. So that's the link, and I'll put the link down below the video in a bar, so you can just click on that. If you want to sign up, and you just type in, give Justin your email address, and then he'll send you the proper form to fill out. And so what we are going to be doing is 9 weeks total on the life and works of Carl Jung. The first class will occur on February 13th at 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., so it'll be 2 hours. That's Mountain Time. So for the West Coast, that should be noon to 2, and then for the East Coast, it should be 3 to 5. So those are the time zones. And the first class will just be a Q&A session that's open to everyone. And for those of you who want to sign up and pay for the course and take the whole thing and do the videos, then at that point you'll sign up. And then the following week, which is the 20th, we'll do this every Saturday. Then we'll start the first course on the 20th, and we'll go through these different topics. And so the topics are, after we do an introductory overview for that first week, the following Saturday we're going to go through the Freud-Jung conflict. I think it's very important to understand the evolution of Jung's ideas. A lot of it came out of an agon with his sort of father-son clash between the master and the disciple, and the rebel who decided to leave Yahweh's world and establish his own kingdom, as it were, and rebel against the master. Jung was not going to be a disciple of anyone. He was way too fresh, original, innovative, and creative to be anyone's disciple, and Freud knew that. So we'll look at that whole dynamic. And what the text for the course that we'll be reading is the Portable Jung, which is edited by Joseph Campbell, which I think is the best overall introduction to Jung that you can find. It doesn't have to be this edition with this cover. Just go on Amazon. There's lots of cheap copies on there that you can get for like $10 and order for it. It should arrive just in time for the course. Still have 3 weeks before we do, actually 4 weeks before we do the actual first class, which is on the 20th. And even then, that one is just an introductory overview. So you have plenty of time to order for the text and get it. All the readings are assigned from this. You might also consider getting Jung's autobiography, Memories, Dreams, Reflections, especially for the Freud-Jung class, and read the chapter in here called Freud, where Jung gives an account of his relationship with the master. So we'll look at that, and then we'll go from the Freud-Jung conflict and analyzing all the juicy, scandalous details of that to psychological types, which is his theory of psychological types that was later hijacked by Myers-Briggs and company, that has to do with Jung inventing the idea of the introvert versus the extrovert, which comes out of his conflict with Freud, where he sees Freud as the extroverted thinking type and himself as the introverted thinking type. And then we'll see him evolve his 4 functions of thinking versus feeling, sensation versus intuition, and the various different introverted, extroverted types that emerge out of that. So that'll be the second topic that we'll cover. That'll be the third class. And then the fourth class, the next topic we'll move to will be the archetypes and the collective unconscious. And in this class, we'll discuss Jung's theory of mythology, what archetypes mean, what the collective unconscious means, and what the individuation process means in his confrontation with the unconscious, which is the next chapter after the Freud chapter in Memories, Dreams, Reflections. I highly recommend reading that prior to the class. And what we'll do is we'll watch each of my videos before the class, and then during the 2 hours we'll discuss them as a group. We'll hash out the ideas. So we'll do a discussion on mythology, its influence on the field of myth, its influence on Joseph Campbell, all that kind of stuff. We'll just hash all that out for that. Then we're going to look at the differences between men and women. I'm sure that this will be a lively and controversial discussion, to say the least. Jung has some ideas about men and women that may now be considered a bit chauvinist, or perhaps not, depending on your point of view. I know that with gender fluidity in hypermodernity, these kinds of ideas are a little bit old-fashioned, but nevertheless, I do think there's some truth to them. The idea that a man's unconscious is feminine, the anima, a woman's unconscious is masculine, the animus, and that in any given couple, in relationship to each other, there is another couple, a phantom couple, the animus, that are involved. So there's always 4 entities that are involved. 2 of them, not imaginary, but in the unconscious. Jung is very specific that just because something is a psychological fact doesn't mean it's not real. We have this bias in our civilization that things are real only if they're physical, and that psychic facts or psychological facts are not real. They are real. They're just as real as physical facts. So the anonymous are very real entities. We'll look at all this. The dynamics are incredibly complex, the relations between men and women, and we'll also look at alchemy, which will be next. And alchemy has something to say about the relations between men and women, but also the individuation process. And we'll look at the techniques of alchemy and how and why Jung picked it up and why he thought it was necessary as an objective correlative to ground his own individuation theory, so that it didn't just seem like some arbitrary thing that he made up, but that had precedence in the West, first with Gnosticism, then with alchemy. So we'll look at alchemy. We're also going to look at synchronicity, which is one of his most famous concepts that he is a concept that he evolved later on in his career, 1950s, he's moving on into his 70s, and beginning to realize that with the occurrence of a synchronicity, whether it's, say, a precognitive dream, you have a dream that then comes true, or you think about someone and then they call you, or there's some significant motif or detail that you notice and that keeps popping up over the next few days. These are all synchronicities, and these include everything from telepathy to remote viewing to, and these are all factual things. They're things that happen, and everyone has experienced synchronicities. And they amount to Jung's broadening of his theory from the psyche to what he calls a psychoid realm that is beneath and beyond the realm of subject versus object, since an archetype or a motif can surface in both the imagination of the subject, whether it's the imagination or the dreams or the conscious experience, and the outer world, which echoes him, and therefore dialogues with him or her somehow. So we'll look at the concept of synchronicity and see what its implications are for a human life. And then we'll also look finally at his book, Answer to Job, which is one of his late texts, one of his best texts, and it's a rare foray into the realm of theology for him. We'll look at the concept. What's important about Answer to Job is that it analyzes the problem of human suffering and what it means to suffer, what it means for the human as a human being. We all have to suffer. It's part of being incarnate in a physical body here on the physical plane. And the answer to Job, as we'll see, is God's incarnation as Christ. He has made Job suffer, and now he himself has to undergo suffering in order to even, let's say, the karmic scales. So those are the topics that we will cover in the course. And as I say, each video will be made available for each week's course. You watch the video, then you show up for a 2-hour discussion where we drink coffee, get drunk on coffee, and exchange ideas about mythology, men and women, individuation, hypermodernity, you name it, we're going to talk about it. So we'll have a lot of fun. So you can email me if you prefer, johndavidebert@gmail.com. Otherwise, just go to that link, otherlife.co/Jung, and I'll put the link in the discussion box at the bottom. So February 13th is when we start for the Q&A section, and then 8 weeks after that. So the whole thing will be 9 weeks. And I think it ends, if I'm not mistaken, April 10th, and it's every Saturday. So we hope to see you there, and we're looking forward to it. Justin and I are both very excited about this.